This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy and features real testimonials.
This was our first time trying therapy, and honestly, it was long overdue. Looking back, we just wish we had started sooner.
Regain's qualified therapists help couples when they can't get there on their own.
We thought it was intimacy issues, but Andrea helped us uncover a deeper root cause we hadn't even realized was there.
Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. Regain, couples therapy that works.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy. Let's be honest, loving your partner doesn't mean you always like them, and guess what? That's normal. Regain, powered by BetterHelp, offers couples therapy that's flexible, affordable, and 100% online. Whether you're reconnecting or working through conflict, Regain is here to support you both. See why people wish they'd tried couples therapy sooner. Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. That's regain.com/couplespod.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome. Glad you are with us on this April 25th, 2025, 04-25-25. Dr. Andy Woods is going to join us. We were off for Good Friday last week, so we didn't have a chance to do our Middle East Bible prophecy update, so we're going to go to him. We leave a week from today for the nation's capital. We'll be there filming for a week, better part of a week, actually. We got a lot of great interviews set up. Some of it we'll tell you about after it happens. But we have a great interview at the Anti-Communist Museum. We'll be touring that, filming that, putting together a whole TV special for that. We have filled out the permits and paid the National Park Service for $900 for having the rights to film at many of the monuments and memorials. We have House and Senate passes for filming and interviewing members of the House and the Senate on the House side and then the Senate side. And we're hitting a lot of historic sites and can produce a lot of great patriotic and historical and educational, encouraging programming. So it's going to be amazing. And we appreciate your prayers for safe travel and good weather and open doors of new opportunities. Even today, I sent off a couple email request for interviews with a couple very key people. Some of you that you wouldn't even think you wouldn't even guess that I would send an email to them, not because they're leftists or liberals, you just wouldn't think of it, but they're historic people living there. And so I'll tell you more about it after the trip and during the trip, but it's going to be great. We're going to collect a lot of interviews and a lot of footage, produce a lot of great television to bring to all of you, And I hope, again, you'll be praying for our safe travels. Let's see what else before I go to Dr. Woods. Oh, last night I had, how long was that interview, Logan? Last night I had with me, I can tell you, it was 2 hours and 4 minutes or 4 seconds, right? Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's a 2-minute ad. Okay, skip that. Okay, so it was an hour and 28. An hour and 28 minutes last night. I interviewed Richard Gage. He's an architect. In fact, if you want to just a quick synopsis, go to worldviewtimes.com. That's our article page. And you'll see an article there, The Unsettling Truth About 9/11. Richard Gage exposes evidence on Building 7 and beyond. Now, the brave U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson, has opened the door. As he says, my eyes have been opened. I watched the documentary Calling Bravo 7, and there's a lot of questions about Building 7 coming down, falling into its own footprint. So he says we need to have congressional hearings. Sounds like he's going to do an investigation. Well, I've been following Richard on social media, X, for a long time. Last night I reached out to him. He came on my broadcast for an hour and 28 minutes. What I did, folks, was basically I just turned the floor over to him. And we let him run his own PowerPoint and video clips for what is really an hour and 28-minute documentary. And it's not conspiracy, it's science. Science. I was shocked at how much science he brought to the table. But as an architect who worked with engineers, I shouldn't have been. But we've heard, oh, well, it was that jet fuel that weakened the steel and caused the buildings to collapse. Because once you deal with building 7, then you have to take what's going on at building 7 and say, was this what was going on with the Twin Towers as well? And he brought up a great point, and he showed the video. Why is steel beams, huge steel beams, blowing out sideways? If this was a building falling due to the compromise of the steel and the gravity, it would be falling down straight. It wouldn't be blowing out to the side and then falling. Something forced it out to the side. Huge steel beams. Then why wasn't the pancaking? Why were these floors not pancaked on top of each other? And he showed pictures where buildings have fallen, and that happens. They didn't. This thing fell into its own footprint, but it wasn't the weight that brought it down, as people say. Oh, well, the first 8, 9, 10 floors fell, and then the rest, really? He said, take a Volkswagen Bug, run it head on into a semi-truck. Who's going to give? Not going to be the semi-truck. And that would be the first floors, the top floors of any of those buildings. If they start to fall, the first few floors, there's not enough there to offset the large steel structure that's remaining. It would just stop and rest. But there wasn't enough weight to do any more pancaking because the steel beams are being shot off to the right and to the left. You can see it. And then you have all the concrete. Where is all the concrete? And he goes into how much concrete were in these buildings. And where was the concrete? It was being pulverized into about a 3-inch dust all over lower Manhattan. And then he went into the testing of what was going on there. And what he found, and this is also according to FEMA. FEMA did a report. FEMA did a report and was talking about what they were finding in the residue. The USGS found signature components of iron spheres that had the diameter of human hairs. And what this signature was of thermite. Thermite. That gets super hot because you got to get it to about like 4,000 degrees to melt steel. These fires wouldn't have done that, even with jet fuel. And then you find that 8 different scientists found these red-gray chips from the World Trade Center dust, and they found aluminum and iron, which is ingredients of thermite. And they were able to trace it back to government laboratories. What? I'm just scratching the surface of what this guy, this architect who's been leading this organization for 18 years, put out last night. All science. The known laws of thermodynamics. No wonder there needs to be an investigation. But you and I have known this for years, but I learned a lot more. I thought I knew a lot. But that hour and a half last night, we're getting a lot of response from it. And it's available, the whole hour and a half, to watch on demand for free at worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com. And from this 9/11 event, or events, plural, came invading Iraq, invading Afghanistan. What, billions and billions and billions spent? I don't know, maybe into the trillions. I have to go look. And then the loss of life, the people harmed and injured for life, the children with no fathers, the children with no grandfathers. For what? For what? For what national interest? Who did this? And then you have what we're living with now today, the Real ID Act. all stemming from the 9/11 Commission. Yeah, everybody's got to run and get a real ID now, really, so they can track every bit of us as they go more and more to RFD and then eventually to digital and track every bit of our life. All recommended by the 9/11 Commission. And then you got the Patriot Act, where they can basically round up any one of us as Americans with no trial, no evidence, no bond, and hold us indefinitely. All from 9/11. And who really did it? I hope and I pray that U.S. Senator Ron Johnson is able to hold these hearings and get to the bottom of some of this. And he does bring in former Congressman Curt Weldon, who we've quoted here for so many years on many, many issues, including, remember Curt Weldon and Congressman Dan Burton warning about the nuclear suitcase bombs? And remember the mock-up of that was made by my friend, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, that I think is on display at the American Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. Curt Weldon's been speaking about this for a long time. Remember Abel Danger? Tried warning about a 9/11 event? Yeah, there's a lot here, folks. And when you pull back the curtain, you realize there are many people, I don't know who, but many people in the shadows, the deep state, I don't know what you want to call them, doing very nefarious things. But how'd they get into that building how'd they get in there to cut the steel, to weaken it, to maybe wrap it with something so that it would have this thermite on it? Supposedly there was maintenance going on in some of these buildings. We have interviews. You have all over 100 first responders talking about the explosions. He played some of their testimony last night. The people saying that they were coming into the office in the morning and there was a dust on the radiators and a dust on the window seals and dust on the vents of the building. That's exactly what you would expect to find if people are working in the elevator shafts, doing things to the steel beams and planting thermite. Got to watch it. WorldviewTube.com last night. Joining me now is Dr. Andy Woods for our Middle East Bible Prophecy Update. Dr. Woods, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brandon, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You too. What do you make of what I just said? My little synopsis of last night. What do you make of what you just heard?
Well, I mean, two things. Number one, I think more information is better than less. I mean, regardless of how people feel about it. I mean, there's no harm in getting all the facts on the table. And I'm always bothered by people that want to suppress evidence. That always bothers me. So I like what I'm hearing from Ron Johnson. A lot of Americans like myself are kind of confused about the whole thing, don't have a clear view of it. But I mean, aren't we supposed to be pro factual data people? Mm-hmm. So I like that part of it. The other part of it I like is, we can blame the deep state, we can blame whoever, but ultimately Satan is working in history behind the scenes, right? And we know he's pushing us to a particular end. You mentioned it a second ago, the real ID, kind of social credit score mentality. Something like this could have been used, whether it was caused by Satan, used by Satan, I don't know, but Satan is there to use anything like this, to bring in bigger government. And if people don't think the Patriot Act is real, just go talk to the J6 protesters, that Trump just gave a pardon to, and their constitutional rights were suspended. I mean, many of them were put in these cells where they didn't even know where they were. And the light was on all night long. They had no concept of time as they were rotting there for years in these prisons. And that came about because of the Patriot Act. So the whole thing stinks to my mind, and I'd love to know what actually happened.
Great comments. When we come back, I wanted to get your feedback on your having been with us, because we haven't talked to you since, the Waukesha Expo Center and our Worldview Radio Rally. And then we're going to go to a lot of stories related to the Middle East and Bible prophecy. So we'll be right back after this break. Don't go away. It's Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewtube.com.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy and features real testimonials.
This was our first time trying therapy, and honestly, it was long overdue. Looking back, we just wish we had started sooner.
Regain's qualified therapists help couples when they can't get there on their own.
We thought it was intimacy issues, but Andrea helped us uncover a deeper root cause we hadn't even realized was there.
Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. Regain, powered by BetterHelp.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. All right, Dr. Woods, before we get to some Bible prophecy, Middle East, and news update topics, what did you make of that standing room only rally in Waukesha a week ago this past Tuesday? What'd you make of that?
Well, I mean, to me, it was overwhelming in a good sense. I was setting my book table up, and our friend Dalton came over to my book table and was trying to shake my hand, but I was so busy messing with my own credit card thing, and I don't know that stuff very well. Fortunately, someone named Holly, is that her name?
Molly.
I'm sorry. She was like the angel that saved the day. She worked my table, and I guess you donated her to me, so thank you to you also.
You're welcome.
But I'm kind of sitting there, and Dalton comes over, and I'm a little bit stressed, and he says, I hope you're ready for what's coming, because these people are literally about ready to break the doors down. And sure enough, the doors opened, and woof, in they poured. And it was like that the whole night. I mean, every single seat in that venue, and we're not talking about a church here, folks, we're talking about a convention center, was full. And I was backstage with you guys after my talk. I spoke first, and my plan was to get from backstage to my table in the break there, and I couldn't even make it past the stage. People were crowding me. They wanted things signed. They wanted this or that, which is wonderful. But I left Molly there, sort of to, defend everything on her own. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it wasn't just a crowd. I mean, it wasn't just a good turnout. There was just a throng of people. And of course, I credit you and your presence on radio and TV for that. I credit the cooperation with VCY. And it was just a wonderful event. And this sort of crowd happened when I spoke there about a year ago, you'll remember, by myself. And that was a big crowd too, but I don't quite remember it, the size of the crowd that you had. Both crowds were huge. But yours was just, I guess I was overwhelmed in a good sense. A lot of places I go, I'm kind of underwhelmed with the crowd. Including my own local church sometimes.
Well, you said something about the love and appreciation that you felt. You told me that on the phone.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something interesting. The series that I've been doing, and I've done it with the series with you too. It's on your network there. But I've been talking a lot about Calvinism. My problems with neo-Calvinism. And that was the number one comment that I got. Thank you for the neo-Calvinism series, which sort of surprised me because this was not a conference dealing with that subject. It was a conference dealing with prophecy. But that's the first time. I mean, usually, when I've dealt with Calvinism before, it's like you're touching the Holy Grail. and people just come at you. It just kind of shocked me how many people, first of all, that was their primary comment. That was their number one thing they wanted to say. And number
People are
two,
waking
how
up on
positive.
that. They're waking up on this.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. And I guess that's the first time being with that crowd, your crowd and VCY's crowd combined, that I really saw, what you just said, people waking up and smelling the coffee. It's like they've been in chains for so long, and it's like the chains are being let loose. It was wonderful.
Amen. Here's an article. The State Department tells employees to report on one another for anti-Christian bias.
Now, isn't that something?
Isn't that something?
Isn't it? Don't we usually hear that the other way around? Report on people that don't have a mask on. Report on people in the State Department that have a manger scene or something on their desk, or a crucifix or whatever. Report on them, turn them in. I got to tell you, that headline is huge to me. It shows me that Trump, whatever people think of him, he is a disruptor. And he's putting people in places of influence that aren't perfect people. None of us are, but they're disrupting what you were talking about earlier, a deep state mentality. And maybe that's the reason he survived 2 assassination attempts. Maybe God has raised him up for such a time as this. I don't know, but looks that way to me.
Well, and we now have Kash Patel, FBI Director, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, holding last week. They all were together, and they put together an anti-Christian task force, and they're going to root out anti-Christian ideologies and harassment in the federal government. We played the clip of what Pam Bondi was saying they're going to do. This is the kind of thing you and I would do if we were put in a position like that. We'd say, we're not going to tolerate persecuting people of faith who hold to Christian values, or people of faith, even if we don't agree with all their finer points of theology. We are not going to persecute people who go to the Latin Mass. I don't go to the Latin Mass. I'm not interested in that, but I'm not going to persecute people or target people or call people potential domestic terrorists because they go to the Latin Mass. I am pro-life, and I don't want to see people arrested for praying in front of abortion clinics. I don't want to see people labeled as potential domestic terrorists because they're evangelical Christians, right? So isn't it, we don't have to agree on every issue, and some of them are fundamental theological issues, to say we just want freedom of religion in accord with our republic, which is the laws of nature. Nature is God. It's not Islam, not LGBTQ. There can be freedom of religion, but we're not going to be denying the foundational beliefs that are the underpinning of our country. And it's sad we even have to reassert that, but that's what they're doing. And praise the Lord, right?
Well, we're so used to people telling us what we want to hear, and then they get in there and do the opposite. You were just talking about the Patriot Act. That was George W. Bush.
Yep.
Supposedly conservative Republican that gave us that. And, we've had Bush, we've had, Dole and McCain and Romney and, go right on down the list promising us all this stuff, and they never really deliver. And here comes Trump in there actually delivering on putting something together to root out anti-Christian bias. A lot of times I got to pinch myself when I keep seeing the news. Is this really happening? It's like everything that we've been praying for is now transpiring.
Well, speaking about pinching yourself, we actually saw the FBI today arrest a judge in Wisconsin for trying to get an illegal alien, a backdoor exit, to stop the ICE from doing their job. And now a judge in Wisconsin has been arrested, and I saw the video of her being released. We also have a judge in another state. He and his wife, I guess, were hiding out at Trinidad Aragua group. So another judge arrested. So now you got the FBI actually arresting these judges and I think one of the greatest threats to our country are the judges. I hate to say it, but they are.
Yeah.
The founders thought that too. The founders were greatly concerned that it would be the judiciary that would run off the rails.
Yeah, just read Federalist paper number 78, where, written by Hamilton, Madison, and Jay, promoting what the Constitution is about. They said the judiciary is supposed to be the least dangerous branch. And then look at the words of Thomas Jefferson as he's writing letters to colleagues and so forth, saying things like, you consider the judicial branch of government the ultimate arbiter of the Constitution. He said that's a very dangerous doctrine indeed, and one that will thrust us very quickly into despotism and oligarchy. And so, and by the way, these lower court judges that are trying to put handcuffs on the president for fulfilling his executive functions, can somebody point out to me in the Constitution where these judges even exist? District court, circuit court level. And my point is, they exist by the good graces of Congress. And to quote Bill Cosby a little bit, as he was giving a humorous act about one of his kids, he said, look, I brought you into the world and I can take you out of the world as well. And I wish that our Congress would take that mindset with respect to these rogue judges. It's just a simple majority vote to limit their jurisdiction, or to get rid of them, or to cut their salary in half, or to say, you know what, you no longer get the greatest retirement system in the solar system anymore. We're going to remove that. You think that would get their attention? And so I'd like for our Congress to sort of grow a backbone.
Well said. Here's another one. Alito blasts unprecedented Supreme Court justices and their move to halt Trump's Venezuelan deportations. Legally questionable is what, I guess, one of them said.
Well, there's something done in the middle of the night. In fact, if you have a moment, I'd love to read to you Alito's quote.
Please do.
By the way, Amy Coney Barrett, once again, is on the wrong side of this. But Alito says here, the court, in his dissent involving this case, issued an unprecedented and legally questionable relief without giving the lower courts a chance to rule, without a hearing from the opposing party, within 8 hours of receiving the application, with dubious factual support for its order, and without providing any explanation for its order. And Alito says they did this in the dead of night. I think this came out like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So he's just stating what we all feel, that the judiciary, even the Supreme Court, is going way beyond what the founding fathers intended, and is trying to stop the president from doing what? Getting rid of illegal terrorists, basically. That one guy, Garcia, used his own wife as a punching bag. I mean, is that really the kind of guy we need in this country? And the president just says, get out. And here's the judiciary, unelected, by the way. Many of these judges conflicted to the core, saying the president can't do what he's doing. It's just completely outrageous.
And now we have a report from Revolver, Fox News. Several people are reporting this today. This was from the 24th of April. FBI bombshell: Venezuelan officials are using gangbangers as soldiers inside the U.S. Now, let's remember, Venezuela, run by a Marxist. We have in Venezuela, they have a close relationship with China, with Russia, with Iran. And now we have Venezuelan officials using gangbangers as, quote, soldiers inside the U.S. Now, here's the Supreme Court saying President Trump doesn't have the right to legally get rid of these people. We got a judge arrested for harboring one of the Trinidad folks, and he and his wife were arrested. We saw that on video today. This goes to the heart of what you and I and others have been talking about for some time. The terror cells, the terrorists in the country, the soldiers that are here working for enemy states, they're all around us. President Trump is trying to clean this up and make the country safe, and he's getting blocked by judges who really, I don't think, have any right to tell him what he can and cannot do when it comes to his right as the commander-in-chief, the president, head of the executive branch, to defend the country. I mean, this is ridiculous. But comment on this. I mean, gangbangers being used as soldiers from Venezuela in the country, in America.
I don't even know how to comment on something like that. To quote a line from one of my favorite movies back in the 1980s, there's the brink of insanity and then there's the abyss. And that's what we've tumbled over with these stupid, insane, crazy, satanically energized policies that we're now faced with. If you told me I'd lived long enough to see something like this, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But here we are.
We also may be having a war between Pakistan and India soon. We can talk about that. Egypt and Qatar push bold 7-year truce and new ceasefire proposal. We got a lot to get to. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy and features real testimonials.
This was our first time trying therapy, and honestly, it was long overdue. Looking back, we just wish we had started sooner.
Regain's qualified therapists help couples when they can't get there on their own.
We thought it was intimacy issues, but Andrea helped us uncover a deeper root cause we hadn't even realized was there.
Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. Regain, powered by BetterHelp.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepcid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. All right, welcome back, Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. And don't forget to stay tuned for Crosstalk, 2 p.m. Central, with Jim Schneider, America's original Christian talk program since the 1970s, on over 100 outlets nationwide, vcy.org, vcy.org. Dr. Woods, we're going to have to speed it up. We have so much to get to, but let's go to this one. Egypt and Qatar push bold 7-year truce in new ceasefire proposal. Tell me about this, please.
Well, of course, you know the part I'm focused on there. 7-year treaty, 7-year peace treaty. Now, just so people don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is that. You know, this is something with Gaza, the peace treaty that's coming yet future, albeit Daniel chapter 9, verse 27 is going to be a treaty between Antichrist rising out of a Eurocentric New World Order and the Antichrist. But what I find very interesting is Israel and the world is being conditioned to think in terms of these 7-year increments, in terms of treaties. And by the way, this is not the first time this has happened. If you go back into your archives on this show, we've covered other such examples of treaties or treaty proposals involving Israel that coincidentally happen to be 7 years in length, not 6 years, not 8 years, but exactly what the Bible indicates, 7 years.
Let's go to this one. King Charles royally ticks off Christians worldwide with bizarre, sacrilegious Easter message, says the Red State. Tell me about that, please.
Well, what a piece of work this guy is. Used to be Prince Charles, and as you know, and as you've documented in your books, he was involved with pantheism and everything going back to the De Janeiro conference in the 1990s and even before that. So now his mother has died. His mother was more Orthodox than him, which isn't saying much, but she at least was had a basic understanding of Christian beliefs and orthodoxy. Well, now that she's died, we're no longer dealing with Prince Charles. We're dealing with King Charles, Charles in charge, you know, as I like to call him. And here he is in his Easter message. He's just mixing Islam and Christianity together as if they were one and the same. In fact, if you got a couple of seconds, I'll read to you exactly what he said. You know, this guy is just building golden calf, as far as I can tell. But he says this, quote, this is his Easter message, and he has a big platform. On Maundy, Thursday, Jesus knelt and washed the feet of many of those who would abandon him. His humble action was a token of love that knew no bounds or boundaries and is central to the Christian belief. So far, so good. The love he showed when he walked on the earth reflected the Jewish ethic of caring for the stranger and those in need. And here's where we get into trouble, a deep human instinct echoed in Islam and other religious traditions, and in the hearts of all who seek the good of others. So never mind the fact that when Christ was on the earth, Islam didn't exist yet. I mean, that's a Johnny-come-lately religion. But he's making it sound like Jesus was just kind of open to all religions, including Islam. All you got to do is look at the tenets of Islam and see that they're completely incompatible with Christianity, not the least of which is Islam teaches that Jesus didn't even die on the cross. Judas died on the cross. And it's a works-oriented religion. It's got zero messianic prophecies in it. When you look at the Hadith and the Quran, that Muslims today think that Jerusalem is their third holiest site. Obviously, the Bible teaches something completely and totally different, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here's Charles in charge mixing the two. And I think he, just like the late Pope, is playing a massive role in setting the stage for what Revelation 17, verse 15 predicts, a global religious system.
Let's go to Pakistan and India. They're fighting. They're about to fight over water. Apparently, have you seen that? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that specifically, but I will say this: the state of Texas just voted for Pakistan Day not long ago.
Yes, they did.
So whatever they're doing over there gets drug into here, and Texas is not as red and conservative as people think. I'm just warning you about that now.
Well, India has completely shut off the water flow to Pakistan, and I guess that's where they get about 80% of their water from. So, according to Pakistan, said this means war, and I think they both have nuclear weapons, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think Pakistan does. I'm not sure about India, but wouldn't surprise me. But there's the religion of peace at work, right? Declaring war on everybody.
Well, and we've got video footage of Pakistan starts sending tanks, artillery, and heavy weapons systems toward the border with India.
Well, Jesus said hot wars and cold wars would escalate as we got closer. And so I think I just put it into that category.
Yep, put it in that category. Let's see what else we got. Doctrines of Demons. Pope Francis dies as the most influential and dangerous false teacher. Article by David Reagan. Thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, I just appreciate what David Reagan did in this piece because he lists every and if you go down a little ways, you'll see them kind of those points there. If you can go a little to my left.
In May of
there we are.
In May of 2013, Pope Francis said atheists could go to heaven if they lead good and honorable lives. July 2013, when asked if homosexuals could serve as priests, he replied, quote, "If someone is gay and he searches for the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge?" October 2013, he declared that proselytizing is solemn nonsense. In June 2015, he proclaimed pollution to be a sin and called for an international agreement to combat global warming. September 2015, he called capitalism economy of exclusion and inequality. He also said capitalism is the dung of the devil. November 2015, he proclaimed that Christians and Muslims are brothers and sisters. June 2016, Pope Francis issued his first video. In it, he expressed his belief that all major religions are different paths to the same God. 2020, issued an encyclical in which he called on people to ditch capitalism, support open borders, reject the traditional Christian doctrine of just war. 2023, emphasized doing good as the principle that unites all humanity, added that the Lord has redeemed all of us with the blood of Christ. not just Catholics, everyone, even the atheist, everyone. We must meet one another. We must meet one another doing good. December 2023, he authorized priests to bless same-sex marriages or couples. 2024, he declared that those who kick out migrants are against life as much as one that kills babies.
That's quite a comprehensive list there.
Yes, there is.
So that's what I liked about that article. And I think the bottom line, and we're all thinking about this because Francis just passed recently, I think Satan used this man's life just like he's using King Charles' life to combine everything into one and prepare the way for one world religion. I mean, he's certainly building a form of spirituality that has zero to do with Scripture. And that's the three-legged stool there of the New World Order.
Indeed it is. Let's see, we got another one here. Rewriting the Bible and calling Israel's war shameful. Pope Francis changing stance on Israel.
Yeah, that's an article from the Jerusalem Post. And that article is documenting two things about Pope Francis. You know, when the whole thing with October 7th broke out and Israel responded, of course, it's Israel committing genocide. It's not the Hamas folks coming from Gaza into Israel. So it's a one-sided approach to the conflict there in the Middle East. And there's Pope Francis trying to put a spiritual face on that. And then the other thing is the nativity scene. I think it was last Christmas or the Christmas before. There is Jesus in St. Peter's Square wearing a keffah and being made to look like a little Yasser Arafat in the manger, so to speak. And so rewriting the Bible so that it makes Jesus out to be a Palestinian, you know, rather than a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is another anachronistic, historical, illiterate, ridiculous idea, since the name Palestine didn't even come into existence until the 2nd century AD, long after Jesus left the earth. But notice that they're trying to come up with a different Jesus, and one that's sort of compatible with the anti-Israel agenda of the New World Order. And so I would say that Pope Francis, just like Charles in charge, they're both being used as satanic instruments to bring in this new spirituality. Of course, Pope Francis has passed on, and now he knows better. But Charles in charge, you know, is still alive and well.
1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. Again, 1-800-347-9829. Did you have a chance to watch the show or read the article, my response to Jordan Peterson's comments? You know, where he said, he talked about both people on the left and the right, some of them having dark triads, psychopaths, sociopathic, narcissistic. And then he said some of them will use the phrase Christ is king, and they're false teachers. He said they are wolves in sheep's clothing, is what he said. He said that he went on to describe them in a way that I thought was pretty clear, talking about the right and the left being infiltrated. But he referred to them as like Pharisees and wolves in sheep's clothing. And some of the crowd that really seems to like to hate on Israel really, really went after him. What are your thoughts on that before we go to the phone lines?
Well, Candace Owens has it's her, I don't know what you call it on X these days, her identification or whatever, but she'll say something against the Jews, and then she'll have this little thing that comes on at the end there that says Christ is king. And I want people to understand what that means. Yes, we believe he's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, but he is not reigning as king right now. He is functioning as high priest at the right hand of the Father. And we're now in a mystery age that's typified in the Bible through the time period when David was anointed, but not yet ruling as king, when Saul was still an illegitimate occupier over the kingdom. If you trace that typology through, that's exactly the time period that we're living in. So Christ is not functioning right now as king. All of the imagery that's used to describe Christ's present role is never king subject imagery. It's, you know, a groom, bride, a head, body, that type of imagery, but never king subject. So my point is, when Candace Owens makes these anti-Jewish statements and then she says Christ is king after every single one of them, what she's saying is, I am an amillennialist, or a postmillennialist perhaps. Basically what she's saying is she believes in replacement theology. That's what she means when she says Christ is king. So that's very important to understand, because you look at that and you think, well, she's so spiritual. No, that's a code word for supersessionism or replacement theology, and it fits her anti-Israel mindset, philosophy, and theology.
1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions, 1-800-347-9829. Phone lines now open, all right? And again, don't forget, you can get our free business cards to tell people about the program. They're free at worldviewstore.com.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy and features real testimonials.
This was our first time trying therapy, and honestly, it was long overdue. Looking back, we just wish we had started sooner.
Regain's qualified therapists help couples when they can't get there on their own.
We thought it was intimacy issues, but Andrea helped us uncover a deeper root cause we hadn't even realized was there.
Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. Regain, couples therapy that works.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. 1-800-347-9829. Let's go right away to the phone lines. Joe, line 1. Thanks for calling in today, Joe.
Yeah. Shortly after the Twin Towers had gone down, my brother was telling me that there were stories of demolition guys going in the buildings the day before and telling people were going out there saying, hey, man, don't come here tomorrow. And a lot of people knew this and didn't go. That's what they say. That's what the rumors are out there. Yep. And that George Bush had much to do with this. This was an inside thing. Well, they were trying to hide some kind of debt they had, or who knows what.
I'm not sure what they're trying to hide, but I'll tell you something we saw last night as well. It was at the BBC. They announced the collapse of Building 7, and yet Building 7 was still standing over the shoulder of the reporter who was reporting it had collapsed. So somebody had foreknowledge. He also played video last night and audio of somebody's microphone catching them counting down 3, 2, 1, and then the explosion. So again, this clearly had to be demolition. You got to watch the whole hour and 28 minutes, Joe. It's at worldviewtube.com. You fired up about it now. Wait till you watch that hour and 28 minutes. You'll be really fired up. Thanks for the call, Joe. Susan in Arizona, line 3. Hi, Susan. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, Brandon. You were talking earlier about who was really behind the 9/11 attacks, and we attacked Afghanistan and so forth and so on. Well, I was listening to a show called the Middle East, either Middle East Radio Forum or Middle East Forum, and it's hosted by William J. Wolf. And he or one of his people was talking about that one day, and they said, I just caught the tail end of the show, but they said that Iran was actually responsible for 9/11. You'd have to go into their archives to find all the details, but that's what I believe they said that I heard at the end of the show.
Well, we also do have reports by people like former CIA operations officer Claire Lopez, who we've interviewed so many, many times and had in the studio here, talking about the documentation that seems to prove that you had these guys going to Iran to practice in flight simulators, their passports not being stamped, so that when they went back into Saudi Arabia and then from Saudi Arabia back into America, their passports would not be stamped showing Iran. So there seems to be a lot of strings that we need to pull on and find out who was really involved. No doubt about it, Susan. David in Wisconsin, line 2. Hi, David.
Hi. Hey, you're talking about films. There's 2 films that I think will be really enlightening. One of them is called Loose Change. There's a couple versions of it, but he literally shows the footage. They slow down as the towers are coming, and he shows, look at these blasts coming out about 20 stories down. Also the Building 7, but the other thing in the video they show is at the Pentagon, there's just one big hole. He says, why in all of aviation crash history were there no motors? Why were there no tail sections? How could you have a 150-foot plane bury itself, totally annihilated, and there's just one big hole, and it literally went completely true out the other side. This thing was controlled demolition. It was also a well-orchestrated plan, and this is an inside job, and they make it real clear.
Well, if you watch, and if you watched last night's broadcast, the hour and 28 minutes, I think we're showing that footage because he slows it way down. You can see the poofs, you can see the smoke and the poofs coming out of the building prior to the collapse of each individual floor, just like you would with a demolition. I mean, you can see it, okay? And people are going to say, well, that's air poofing out. Really? That's that white, consistent, perfectly timed poof at each floor, which then just happens to collapse after each one, is air. No, because again, what is collapsing the floor? Oh, the weight of the building. Really? You mean the weight of the building that has now been greatly reduced because the steel beams are blowing out to the side and the concrete that should be pancaking has been pulverized and now part of the 3 inches of dust all over lower Manhattan? I mean, he lays it out that so clearly, scientifically, it wasn't the weight collapsing those floors. The steel beams, by the way that building was structured. I have an audio clip we played last night of Donald Trump the day of 9/11 or the day after saying, I think there were explosives in that building. That was Donald Trump saying that. But I think the video footage you're talking about, which is so important, David, is in the broadcast last night. Thank you, David. Mark in Wisconsin, line 1. Thanks for calling in, Mark.
Hi. I just want to tell you, I was at the rally the other week in Waukesha. Man, that was a great time. You were outstanding.
Thank you.
I got to meet Andy Woods. He signed a book, his Babylon book, for me. In fact, he's the only guy in the room that was taller than me. He was a nice guy to talk to. There's one question. A lot of my Christian friends I'm talking to now, I'm getting this ugly anti-Semitic undertone, and I'm just looking for like some kind of resource that more describes the proper role of Israel in the church and how they're separate. And that there is this replacement theory that you see. I mean, it's so prevalent among people now, it's disturbing.
Dr. Woods?
Well, I mean, I did write a book over 400 pages called The Coming Kingdom, and it lays it out there. There's other authors I could recommend to you. Arnold Fruchtenbaum's Israelology, The Missing Link in Systematic Theology is very good. You know, things that Thomas Ice has written. He's got Israel in the title. I can't remember the name of the book, but I can see it in my mind's eye. Big Star of David.
The Case for Zionism.
Yeah, that, and things written by Olivier Milnick, Paul Wilkinson. There's 2 volumes where he documents all the anti-Israelism in modern day Christian thought. So there's some good resources out there.
Let's go real quick to Mary J. in Iowa, line 4. Hi, Mary.
Yes. Here's the title you need to listen to. It's called He's Been Hiding in Plain Sight, Then Exposed.
Is that Joan Vion?
No, I'm giving you the title. It's a video.
Oh, it's a video.
The
Okay.
only man alive who could be the Antichrist, parentheses with proof, and it's on youtu.be, YouTube.
And that's about King Charles. And Joan Vion wrote a book years ago, saying why she thought he was a strong candidate for it. We'll see. I don't know. He's got cancer, but who knows? Dr. Woods is andywoodsministries.org, andywoodsministries.org. Andy, as always, thank you for being with us. Stay right there, Dr. Woods. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for Crosstalk here on VCY America, vcy.org. And again, thank you for being with us and for your support at worldviewfoundation.com. Take care. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube, and Dr. Woods for the few remaining moments. Dr. Woods, you had another story here. China debuts gold recycling ATM that transfers cash in 30 minutes. Tell me about this, please.
Now, isn't that something? It's like an ATM window. In fact, in that article, there's a video of it functioning. I think you could see it live. It's just a 30-second video, but you take your valuables, you put it in that window, and it basically assesses the worth of it. I think it does something to it, but immediately what shows up electronically is your number, meaning your wealth increases. And I call that a 3-for-1. It's China, which we know is prophetically significant, the kings of the East. B, it involves governments wanting gold in the last days. And we know from Ezekiel 38, 12, and 13, that's why the nations are going to invade Israel. And then the third thing is it moves us away from cash into a digitized system, which will become the foundation and the pretext for the social credit score system, which, by the way, already exists in China. This is how the Chicoms are able to manage or control their massive population. It's through the social credit score system, which your viewers know a lot about, so we don't have to rehash it, but and that sets the stage for the mark of the beast system. So I found this thing to be very interesting.
Well, it is very interesting. I'd never seen it till you sent it. Called the Smart Gold Store. The machine, located in a Global Harbor Mall, transfers money to the user's bank account after weighing and smelting their gold, all within 30 minutes. So it actually melts down their gold right there in that machine.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
And so your wealth now is determined by a number on a screen rather than what you actually own. So isn't that where we think everything's moving? And by the way, that machine is so popular, it's like backed up till May. People can't even get to it for a month or two.
This one lady, Wang, one of the customers, traded a 40-gram gold necklace at a recycling rate of $108 for cash worth 36,000 yuan or $4,900 in less than half an hour.
Yeah, except I don't think you get the cash. Maybe you do, but really what they get is your number is increased. And so it's moving us towards cashless, in my opinion. Where
She
wealth
waited
is
4 hours. She waited 4 hours to be able to do that. And she held on to the jewelry for 30 years. There's actually a little video about it. Look at that.
Yeah.
A video where you put it in there.
There you go.
It's telling you what it's worth. And then it'll melt it down, and wow, isn't that something? Well, these central banks are scooping up gold, grabbing up gold. And I think we actually had news about China today. Let me see if I can Yahoo it real quick. China doing something with their yuan and gold or something. Let's see what it was. They did something. Let's see if the story pops up. No. Here's one, though.
And as you're, okay.
No,
well,
go
I'm
ahead,
just saying, as you're looking for that, just as a filler, remember Putin loves gold. Just Google Putin and gold sometimes. And you'll see all kinds of articles coming up how he wants to get his hands and his country's hands on more and more gold. So this makes an invasion from Russia into Israel to get gold, a very credible scenario, which is exactly what the Bible anticipates for the end of the age.
Let's see. I saw it earlier. I wish I had saved it. China's central bank promotes yuan usage and overseas expansion. Here's another one, though. China's $5,000 gold bet is on. Retail traders are going all in. So there was something about them doing something with gold and the digital system and whatnot. But I think that's where we're headed. I think we're headed to some kind of digital system, and they're going to have to back part of it with gold for people to actually trust it, to have some kind of hard asset tied to it that actually has real value. People don't trust these fiat currencies anymore. They don't. Amazing. AndyWoodsMinistries.org. Have a safe trip to California.
I will. Thank you very much.
What are you doing out there?
Well, I'm actually going to South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina.
Yeah. I'm speaking at Community Bible Church Sunday morning, Pastor Brogie's church.
Good. Have a great trip. Be safe, my friend.
Thank you.
Dr. Woods checking in here, folks. Hey, if you appreciate all we're doing, folks, look how much we're on television every day and radio, cranking out the content all for free. WorldviewFoundation.com is how we do it. We need your support. We're listener supported. WorldviewFoundation.com. Take care.